everyone. For today's video, I wanted to talk about an event in Halo Wars 2 that came and went way too quickly, and it's something I miss quite a lot, and that's the yappening in Halo Wars 2. I think a lot of the people listening to the channel today aren't really aware of what the yappening was or what the event is. It was recently kind of shuffled into MCC as well for a weekend. But this thing really started in Halo Wars 2. It was kind of a surprise when it happened, and it only lasted for a weekend. But it was one of the best weekends for Halo Wars 2 I've ever experienced. It was so cool. So I want to break down kind of the news and the changes of what the happening was. This blog post came out back in March, the end of March in 2018. So Halo Wars 2 at that time was just a year old. So this was 2.5 years ago when this happened. I wish that this game mode would become something implemented into the game where you could toggle it on and off. But for now, it's not in here anymore. I hope that maybe this is added as some form of a mod, so if people want to do it unofficially, they can. But if you want this added to Halo Wars 2, let 343 know. Message them on Twitter. Tell them in their official channels that you want the yappening to come back, and I'm sure they'll listen if enough people make a loud enough voice. So what the yappening is it was meant to be as if Yap Yap had taken control of the game servers and the balance of Halo Wars 2 and threw it way out of whack on purpose to make it as much of a meme and ridiculous as possible. Everything was dialed up to 90, and it was pretty hilarious. So let me run through some of the global changes that happened across the board. So to obtain power for your base, you have to capture power nodes. Your supplies and your power extractors, your generators and your power extractors, only produce supplies. So if you build a generator or a power extractor, you're not going to get any power. You're only going to get supplies. So everything produces supplies. Every leader has a larger starting army to help fight over power nodes and power crates. All leader powers were free, and they were gained faster. So your ultimate powers were only 3 minutes. Your unit drops were 2 minutes, and then 1 minute for active drops. Your main base structures provide a small trickle of power as well, so you get a little bit of power for making buildings. Your health for mini bases, your regular bases, protection buildings, and turrets have all gone up. The health for expansion bases increased, but not as much as upgraded bases. Units across the board have been altered with new weapon types and damage modifiers. So Tech 1 units do low building damage, Tech 2 does a little bit more, Tech 3 does a lot more, and ultimate units such as Condors and Scarabs are game enders for stalemates. Tech 3, all units cost a very small amount of power, and they increase the cost of the Condors and the Scarabs. There are 4,000 and 4,000 each, but they're significantly stronger and kill buildings way faster. All upgrades, global upgrades for units, and armory and war council upgrades cost only supplies, no power. Global upgrades were increased across the board to 20%, 40%, and 60%. I think it's in regular Halo Wars, it's 10, 20, and 30. All unit upgrades have been lowered to 100 supplies. Turrets build in roughly 15 seconds, except for siege. Shields have not been changed in any way. The airpad is now a Tech 1 building for the UNSC and allows Nightingales to be built early in the game. Nightingales are a Tech 2 unit. For the Yappening, it was a Tech 1. Snipers and Rangers were Tech 2, and Locusts and Kodiaks were Tech 3. This kind of goes in play of how much damage they do to buildings. Flamers, Rangers, and Suicide Grunts have now more units in their squad. Hero units are now stronger versus buildings, and character models have been updated for several units in the game. I think this showed the I think the regular hunters had potentially the hunter captain model, if I'm remembering correctly, and then the tanks had the I don't know if it was called the Ironclad Hunters or the Ironclad Scorpions, but the Scorpions had a new model as well. And there were a few other ones across the board. So now that that was some global changes, let me go through some of the leader-specific changes that happened in the Yappening. You're going to love what's been going on here. So for the Arbiter, the Plasma Bolt uses a lot more shots, and by a lot more, it was a lot. Eradication's area of effect was much larger. That's a huge understatement, by the way. The amount of beams in the Eradication was, I think right now, it's something like 9 or 12. This was like 30 beams. I mean, it was insane. There's a short little clip of me screaming my lungs out when the first time we used it during the Yappening. For Anders, there's multiple waves of the arc defense instead of only having one wave. For Cutter, the close air support spawns many more pelicans in waves, and that's no joke. It like covered the whole screen. The ODST drop now spawns 10 ODSTs instead of 3. That was so cool to see. It was like a throwback to Halo Wars 1. And then Cutter's Spartan Jerome was replaced by the ODST hero from the Spearbreaker campaign. So if you've played the Spearbreaker campaign expansion, that leader was Cutter's hero. And a lot of people were calling for that to be permanently changed. I'm not sure if they ever seriously considered it, but I think that'd be kind of cool. It makes kind of sense to me. I thought that would be kind of neat. Isabel Mac Blast now gives additional shots for each point spent on this leader power, so it was kind of like how it was in Halo Wars 1. I'm going to skip the Shipmaster because no one cares, and I hate the Shipmaster. For Decimus, the Fury is 10 times stronger at its highest tier. Isn't that insane? Decimus, when dropped, does a lot more damage, and his unit's health is doubled. For Forge, the Scatter Bomb hits a lot harder than it used to. Kinsano, when you purchase Heat of Battle, Kinsano's Kodiaks in Siege now leave a pool of fire behind that does damage over time. I cannot tell you how many times I have requested this to be a permanent thing in the game since this, and it hasn't happened yet, and I'm not going to give up, because Morgan needs Flame Siege, because Serena gets Ice Siege, so it makes no sense that Morgan is left out of Flame Siege. That's my argument there. Colony now has Teleport. Sergeant Johnson, the EMP Mac, now buffs significantly more when targeting your own units. I don't know if people realize that EMP Mac does buff your own mechs if you shoot it on yourself. Ideally, you want to shoot it on both yourself and your opponent, so you can kind of get both the effects of the EMP Mac. Fun fact for you. Omega Team now rides on Mac Blast for Jerome, because why not? The Enduring Salvo now does damage as if a ship is falling on you, because it is. I love that description. For Serena, her Warthogs are now, for lack of better term, Frost Hogs that use Cryospray to freeze units. I think that's a great idea. Ice barriers now spawn more barriers at each tier. By more barriers, there's like, I don't know, 10, 15? It was insane. Vortis, not anything really interesting for Vortis. His hero unit now spawns infusion for a significantly longer amount of time. Moving on to Pavium, Rain of Fire now spawns more damage, dealing beams at each tier of the ability, and the burnout no longer impacts unit production times. I'm assuming that's because everything got reduced. So, Yap, this is, kind of the point of the entire Yappening. There's 6 hero units that you can be built instead of 3 for the Grunt Goblins. He has a lot more turrets on his turret drops. His starting army is literally just OP. He has 101 pop starting army, and Cannon Fodder has an increased capture rate on power nodes to better resemble other units. There's a screenshot I'm going to probably use as the thumbnail for this video, but I'll put it here as well. And you can just see the chaos going on here. It's really incredible. You can kind of see Atriox's eradication around the outside. This thing was so good. I miss the Yappening so much. The point of this video is I wanted to show you and recollect a little bit on how much we loved this game mode for a weekend. It was really incredible. A lot of fun. It just made Halo Wars 2 so casual, and I'm such a fan of casual playing. Lately, everyone who is left that has a voice in the Halo Wars community has for some reason gone competitive, which, in my opinion, turns away a lot of the new players who want to play the game post release. It makes it kind of a harder learning curve and, not really welcoming. And I want Team Respawn to be a place where it's welcoming to new players. And this game mode is exactly what Halo Wars 2 needed at the time, and it needs it now. My hope is in a perfect scenario, we see Halo Wars 2 come to Steam, and when they do that development work to bring it to Steam, they will include the Yappening as a game mode. It would be something as if, if even if you do it in custom games, I think that would be fine. If there's no matchmaking whatsoever related to the Yappening, I'd be totally fine with it. Where you just fight against AIs with toggling the Yappening on and off. I'd love to know your thoughts on the Yappening. Did you experience it back in the day in 2018? Did you miss out on that weekend? Or did you have no idea that this thing even existed until now? I love to know your comments down below. And let's hope that this will return to Halo Wars sometime soon. Alright, thank you all so much for watching this video, and I'll see you, James.